Hey Diane, glad to see all of you. This is the day that I have been fearing. So last night I was walking my dog. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. And I saw 4 pillars of darkness in the sky. I was like, oh, what is that? Okay. So as I said, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago. Hey Mary, hey Melinda, hey Lynn, hey Regina, hey Brooke, hi. I knew that we knew for a long time that, we had a buildup going on, but I kept feeling like the Trump waffle. But a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I saw him just, okay, go ahead. So this whole thing with this faux, fake uh, talks with Iran, I knew it wasn't, it was just an excuse, just a stalling technique to get us into position because I had seen and heard that the decision was already made. Hey, Shannon. Hey, Brooke. Hey, Alex. Hey, Anlin. Kathy Lane, Mary, Eileen, Wendy, Kelly. So, I thought it was very bizarre that there was no, even an attempt to try to excuse or make some kind of sell the American public on this. No real attempt to pre-sell the war. Anyway, so last night, after they saw the 4 pillars of darkness, I went to sleep. I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I felt something come into my room, and I felt myself spin around in my body, and I was taken out of my body and shown this, I was shown this just dark street, just kind of like what happened with when Russia attacked Ukraine, just before that happened. And I saw like smoke everywhere, and I was like, okay, I guess this is happening now. So when I woke up this morning, my husband came in to go and do something, and he's like, "We're at war with Iran." I'm like, "I know." And this is not, and I've been saying this for a long time. This is, this is not just strikes. This isn't just a small thing. This is going to be an intractable world war situation that we've gotten ourselves into. This is World War III. This is the start of it for real, the hot war. So, as I've said many times before, World War would be followed by Civil War here in the United States, and at Kamala won, it would have been Civil War followed by World War. It would have started differently, but this is kind of this is a really, really dark period of time, as you all know. And every day there's more crap that is being piled on us. And a lot of people have been feeling, well, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And I want to say that me and the group of psychics on Thursday were talking about this. Everybody is very upset. As I'm sure all of you guys are really upset as well. And people are feeling the urge to do something. And I know the Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries, we'll want to spring into action and do something. And while we do have to do something, we have to, this is not a simple answer. How do you fight the darkness when you come from a place of love and the light, and you want to see, and you come from a place of compassion? How do you fight the darkness? And I got a very clear message in the meditation that this is a time of spiritual warfare. And what does that mean, right? It means that we have to do everything we can to create community, to be of compassion to one another, to build bridges, to tend to people who are stressed out and upset, to hold the light. And what does that mean? We have to become the light. How do we do that? We really have to start digging in to our spiritual centers, our soul, because this is a time of endings. And this is the time I've known was coming since I was a child, and we're all being prepared for. This sounds really insane, but we're all here for a reason. And those of us who are peaceful and loving and spiritual people, there is a prophecy that a friend of mine named Terry told me about, who is a Tibetan Buddhist. The prophecy of the Shambhala warriors. In the time of the greatest darkness, the Shambhala warriors, they awaken and they bring light to the darkness. What that means for every single one of you is going to be different. But you are the Shambhala warriors. Anybody who has compassion and love in their heart and feels heartbroken about what's going on has to learn to come from a place of compassion always, even under the most intense darkness. Build bridges and help those who need your help. It may be in small ways, it may be in big ways, but all of you will know what to do if you stand in your light. You have to get in touch with Source, your soul, and know your mission, because we're all here for a reason. What that means can be different for each of us. Some of us may stand in the gap for other people. Some of us may provide healing and support. Some of us may feel like we need to contain the darkness. But whatever is your mission, you have to trust yourself and really do your work and meditate and pray every day and stay in contact with source energy. Whatever your religious or spiritual belief system is, it doesn't matter. All roads lead to the same mountain path top. They're all going to the same place. So it doesn't matter if you come from a Buddhist tradition, a Christian tradition, a New Age tradition, whatever it is, you have to just follow your path up that mountain and find yourself in connection with Source and use everything that you have to stay compassionate and loving and pray and do what you know you need to do in the moment, because each of us will have different things that we'll be called to do. So stay in the ready and trust your instincts and your gut and your connection to Source. That's the only thing we can do. What that means, like I said, for everybody will be different. And I mean, this is the thing, I've been most upset about is just the trauma and the pain and suffering of the people will be immense. Like, what's going on there is only going to spread and become worse everywhere. So I would also consider that because China and Russia are in unified with Iran, that there is very, very, very likely to be a strike here in the United States as well down the road. I think that's what I was shown, and the group of psychics were shown a couple of years ago with some kind of missile strike on the East Coast. So live your lives and do what you need to do and trust your gut, trust your intuition. I know it's hard because we're all trained not to, but if you found me, that's the reason you found me, is to learn to trust yourself. I got a message today from Spirit to give to you guys. And that is, the Pisces age is ending and a new age is coming, the Aquarian age. This is an age of community, and there will be no more one leader type people anymore. This will be a true democratic period. But in order for this to happen, I mean, the world is going to have to, everything's going to have to end and begin over. What we leave from this period of time is going to be the template for those who come after us. So we have to build community and understand that in this last age, we followed leaders who were psychopaths and evil people. We followed those leaders because we lived in big, giant, untenable structures. I remember when I was a little kid, I was probably about 5 or maybe even younger than that, being on the playground with a bunch of kids, and there was this one girl who was very, very mean. She was just a mean, mean girl. She was very manipulative and a bully. And I remember watching her and thinking, why are these kids following this bully? Why are they all they have to do is just, you know, stop and look towards other people and just kind of isolate her from, but instead they all followed. They all kind of gathered around the bully and did whatever she wanted or whatever she said. And it was a lesson to me at a really young age because I felt like I was dropped here from another planet. People tend to follow those with bluster, follow those who are in their ego, follow those who intimidate and use fear and control. And humanity has to get past that. We have to learn to cooperate rather than compete. And we have to learn to trust those who come in humility and love and compassion and build bridges because no one person is going to do it alone. There is no one person who's going to save us. The Aquarian age is an age of unity, of humanity. We all have to learn to work together through compassion and love and putting all beings and all creation as equal. That is a huge lesson because we are not, I don't even know if our monkey primate selves are even programmed that way, but we have to learn to be able to do that and use our higher angels, our better selves, our higher selves. And I think a new world that's going to be built in the ashes of this one is going to have to come from that place in order for it to work. So I think we're being forced into this. And all the old things are going to go and new things are going to be born in its wake. But this period is going to be very dark and terrifying and traumatizing as it has been, and it's only going to get worse. So I think we need to really lean on each other and realize that all of us have special gifts, and together we have the gift, an enormous gift of bringing light and truth to the world. We each are going to have to contribute to this. So that's the only way I can see that we can be of service, because we can't stop this train. We can't stop this reaping, this ending, this trauma, this horrible period we're in. We can try to stop what we can, but frankly, we don't live in a democracy anymore. And I think people hopefully will wake up to that from this. You know, Trump came as the Prince of Peace. He's going to solve all the world's problems, and then he started a world war. He is, I think, in many ways, and like I said, the prophecies of the Bible, which I think the way I see this is, and I've been listening to a lot of NDEs lately, and I'll notice that every NDE is different. Um, and the reason I believe that is because each one of us here, our collection of experiences, our belief systems, and our connection to source, we are each here developing sort of a piece of creation. Creator has thrown us all out, or we're all little sparks of the divine, and we each are individuating different experiences and bringing those things back to source. And each one of us has our own, you know, many, many lifetimes of history, our own connection to source. And source speaks to us from our own, where we are. Uh, and this collective reality of the Piscean age um, of sacrifice and Jesus and all this sort of the world has to end and this sort of death cult situation that we find ourselves in. This is a shared belief by billions of people on this planet. And while it won't be exactly the way that the Bible tells us it's going to be, the prophets, they did get a lot right, because these are the seeds that were planted thousands of years ago that are coming to fruition now. And certainly this is the end of this age. And what they said at the end of this age would be that there would be a man who came to power, an antichrist, the antichrist, who would come as a liar, who would tell everybody he was a prince of peace and start the world war. And that would be the period of this totally intense, dark, turbulent period. It also says that the people of the church would put the Antichrist in power. And I think we all know that's pretty much defines, and if you read some of the quotes about the final Antichrist, you're going to recognize someone in it. And whether this is a manifestation of belief systems that we have manifested through millions of people, billions of people believing this, because I think that's a big part of it. It didn't have to go this way, but it is going this way. If we would have had respect for each other and we would have listened to what Jesus said, to love your neighbor as yourself, and lived in harmony with nature, we wouldn't be here right now. But we didn't do that. We followed this path, this very destructive path for the last 2,000 years, where we murdered and maimed and committed genocide upon one another, where we enslaved people, and where we let psychopaths and evil people use control and domination over others. We did not wake up to our own divinity, and we did not wake up to the divinity of all things. But now is the reaping, where it's going to have to end, because this earth is so out of balance. We are so out of balance. Our shadow has become more predominant than our light. And those of us who have come here holding the light have to show people the way out. We have to help to show them the way back to source. And this is, I believe, the real mission. It's not that we can change this, is that we have to find the pathway out of the darkness into the light, not for saving everything here, but for saving those who come after us, for the next world that's going to be built in the ashes of this one. I know that's very dark, and I'm sorry, but that's the peace I've been keeping to myself for a long time. I mean, I think this is sort of a freight train that's been moving down these tracks for thousands of years. And while we could stop some of it, there's too many people on board this train pushing the rest of humanity towards this. We didn't have enough time to stop the train. We may have gotten some people off of it. We may have brought people to understanding, and that's all we can do. And we have to keep trying to pull as many people off that train and tend to those who are lost and injured, because I just we're in it now. We are in it. And there's no going back. This is where we're at. Okay, I'm going to read your comments now. Sorry, I just had to get all that out. Thank you for compassion, giving us the tools to maneuver through. Well, you're welcome, Joan. I wish I could do more. How long for the violence when all the time period ends? It's. I mean, I don't want to scare you, but I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I think this is a period of. I mean, look. Like I said, this is a world war, and it's going to metastasize, and it's going to be what's going on with Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East, Russia, China, Iran, and think India is even joining the BRICS nations. I talked about this on Substack last summer, that I saw them building a military alliance. That's what they've done. We are isolated, alone with Israel, and basically, we've made ourselves very vulnerable by doing that, our country. So we are in a world war, and this whole thing is not like, this is going to go on for a long time. This is not going to be in and out. Just, this is going to go on and be protracted, and we're going to see probably it's spreading throughout that region, and it's going to go on. I mean, I don't know how to answer that question, because I feel like this is just sort of a breaking open of a lot of darkness. And here in the States, as Trump also has his assault on us, as he goes after people that don't agree with him, and they're building these prison camps everywhere. He's also going to go to war with the American people, and we're going to have civil war here too. So we're talking about a two-pronged fight, inner and outer, that the U.S. will be at the center of. So how long is that going to last? I think, the amount of broken institutions and people are going to pile up pretty quick. And from looking at the U.S. Constitution signing chart, this is just the start of it. There is a progression of Mars moving towards the 7th house, and Pluto in opposition. And that doesn't even start till the 2030s. So we're only into 2026 right now. And this is the start of it. This is not, we're at the start. We're at the tip of this iceberg. So it could go on for a very long time. And it's going to get worse way worse before it gets better. And there's other problems besides this, which I haven't even had a chance to talk about, because this is so predominant. But climate change, I've seen for years, just, and more recently, just rivers running dry, lakes running dry, parched earth, and then deluges and massive hurricanes and tornadoes. So we're talking about the earth herself is also going to be going through this big turbulent period. And you have that on top of this, on top of the things that we are doing to each other. And when we should be coming together to help each other and figure this out, instead we are warring with one another. And so this is a really, really really messed up period. And also, there is a plague coming. I've seen that. I have a feeling from what I've seen now is as the internment camps get going, that probably that's when the plague will break out, and that makes sense that people being clustered together. And that's another thing coming. I think the four pillars of darkness I saw last night would be what you would, I guess, call the four horsemen of the apocalypse, maybe. Um, so while I don't think it's going to be exactly how it was laid out, because prophecy is metaphorical, and uh, if it was really obvious and clear, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. I mean, if the ancients had, you know, drawn a picture of Trump, maybe the born agains and the evangelicals would have been like, oh, I guess he's the Antichrist. We shouldn't follow him. I mean, it has to be free will. So prophecy is often sort of a little bit vague. It's a warning for those who are willing to listen, and for those who are on the shadow path. It's vague enough that they misread it because they're not really connected to the source, and they have chosen greed and materialism and harm. And look at the ministry. Look at what we found out in the Epstein files about about him. I mean, frankly, I you know I was shocked at I mean, how dark all that stuff was. I mean, I didn't expect there to be murder and cannibalism and babies being stolen, and I mean, the depth of the depravity is so intense that it's hard to even fathom. So this is yeah, I mean, I hate to get too dark about this, but these are the people that are leading this world. They're all those people that are in the Epstein files are people in positions of power. And they got power because they bullied and stepped on people and destroyed other people to get their piece of the world. And that's just the truth. And we, as good people, have enabled it, not on purpose, but because we have given into our fear and of like confronting darkness or confronting bullies or confronting evil when we see it. I'm not saying anybody here necessarily did that, but the majority of people have done that. And we have to stop doing that. We have to have communities of people where that kind of behavior is totally intolerated. And and I think this is the lesson we're going to learn on the other side of this, is that we have to build small communities where there's accountability and people can work together and know one another well enough to know those who are the rotten apples who are trying to destroy everything and trying to hurt others. And those will have to be rooted out of the bunch, because looking at the Epstein files, all the rotten apples are at the top. And they're the ones who are making these big, horrible decisions. Congress wasn't even, they didn't even know what was going on. The people didn't know what was going on. I mean, this whole thing has been done between Trump and Netanyahu. And they're both really dark characters. Netanyahu is also evil, just like Trump. So we were not consulted. We have to come to a system of governing ourselves that has no leaders. I really believe that hierarchies have to die, and that people have to become tribal in a certain way, or kind of take the old native kind of ways of being, which is to have councils of people, and we all truly hash things out and come to respect one another. The world as it is built is so toxic and so off kilter. It's just our systems of money, our systems of government, they're so easily corrupted. And on the other side of this, when there's ashes left and people have to rebuild it, we're going to have to show, and we're going to have to show now a way forward that is communal and accepting and loving, and that brings about an age of unity among people where we work together collaboratively, because that's the only way that we can rebuild this and have no more war and have peace and have balance on earth and really follow our spiritual destiny, which is to become enlightened at some point, to become um, beings that get to the next level of our spiritual development. We can't get there with this kind of oppression and darkness constantly. I mean, I don't think that this. I think this is why it's coming to an end. Is I do believe that Earth is probably, of all of the worlds that exist in the multiverse, the darkest and most troubled world, if not the most, one of the most troubled worlds. And people come here to learn hard lessons, but I feel like it's time for humanity to grow up and move to the next stage of development where we're not torturing one another. So let me read some more comments here. Violence coming to the U.S. Well, I think this summer, with that Uranus-Mars conjunction, is going to be the start of that. In terms of like a possible strike against us, I don't know. I saw that a couple years ago, and I don't know when that. I wasn't given a context of time. All I know is that everyone in the group saw it, and I heard that it was Russian missiles, or certainly it was Russia, and they do have the ballistic missiles to be able to hit us. But it was after a period of, we were already in this kind of civil war going on here, where we were fighting and bad stuff was happening here. So it was confusing whether it was a strike from outside or whether it was something, domestic. We didn't know at first, but I heard it was a strike from outside. So when that comes, I don't know. And I feel like it's not imminent, because maybe it is. It depends how fast. I just don't know. I think the timing of things when you get visions and stuff. I mean, I started having visions about this when I was like a kid. And I mean, I thought this was going to happen a lot sooner, because I started getting visions about this and kind of instructions since I was a little kid. And I thought, by the time I was like probably my 20s or 30s, it would happen. But, here I am now. I'm almost 60 and it's happening now. I remember as a young person talking about this, and people, of course, thought I was insane. But then this period where I thought, okay, it's not happening right now. I'm not, all the things I was told that I was going to meet all these people. I was going to sort of find my people, and I was going to, all this shadow stuff was going to come out, and this sort of escalation and sort of the end times thing was going to happen. And I was like, why isn't this? It seems like, okay, that's not happening right now. And I was working as a psychic and meeting lots of psychics, and I was doing all that. And then I had this period where it's like, okay, there's something. It was like, this is on pause. And so then I just kind of lived my life a little bit and went back into this stuff. And then in 2012, that's when I knew it was starting, because I had those. I told you guys about the angels that came to my house. I saw them like they were real, and they were all angels of death. And we had to move to this area, and then this house was the same exact house I'd had in dreams back into the 1980s, which of course we didn't even see the house because it was being built when we bought it. So, and then I realized this is the beginning of the escalation. And I didn't really know what to do with that. Um, I mean, frankly, it's confusing. It's like you get pieces of things and you know something, but you don't. The timing of it is very difficult to give you because only through astrology can I kind of pin things down. That's how I kind of pinned down this period of time that this war would start. Um, and I mean, I could see things aligning in the chart of Iran and the U.S. This period, going back a couple of weeks all the way to the spring, this could have started any time during this period, really, based on the astrology. So all I can tell you is the astrology kind of tells us that this is a protracted period, um, and that the Mars Pluto opposition on the first house, seventh house cusps is aligning right now, and it's getting stronger. Um, the Uranus the Uranus Mars conjunction that's happening in the fourth house this summer, um, I think is going to ignite it. And just like the Neptune Saturn conjunction, I figured this would be the beginning of the World War because of the Neptune Saturn conjunction in Aries. But how? But I'm thankful that I know astrology because when you get information, this stuff is timeless. It's out of time. There is no real way to tell when it's going to happen. Um, so only astrology is kind of guide, and even then, it's hard because aspects people can do something sort of in a different aspect than what you're looking for. Things can happen slightly different time frame. So that's why I try now to just give blocks of time because when all these things align is it's going to happen in that period. So the exact date or how long it's going to last, I'll kind of go into that, but I don't think people really need to know that, to be honest with you, because I think it's just overwhelming, really. I mean, when I've looked at it going back for a long time now, um, it just looks like it continues to proliferate and get worse, frankly. Um, and I don't want people to really think about that because you have to be in the moment and you have to kind of think about how you're going to deal with this in this time. I mean, I can give you guys ideas about it. I can write some stuff on Substack about it, but I feel like I've learned my lesson about telling people things too far in advance and overwhelming people. And I feel like you have to just focus on your own spiritual mission and know that we are in this really dark period and that you're being activated. And you need to kind of follow your own spiritual guidance about what your purpose is because you're here for a reason. And that's the most important thing to know right now because um, we're all going to transition. I mean, at some point, right? The difference, why you're here now is to do what you're supposed to do and make the right choices and be in alignment with what the creator made you to be and to do your spiritual mission. And when you go home, as long as you are focused on that, everything is going to be okay. I mean, that's. Uh, uh, I mean, I've thought long and hard about this, about you know your body, this everything of this world, wanting to, that your natural instincts is to survive, right? But if you're just trying to survive, then you're not you're going to end up capitulating to your fear. So you have to be brave. You have to just follow love and guidance and spirit, because we're all going to eventually, kick the bucket. And unfortunately, probably a lot of people are going to do it in large numbers at one time. I mean, certainly, we saw COVID. It took 1 million Americans. And I think they stopped counting. Now we're in this other period where there's going to be even more people that probably transition. And I think it's really important now to pray for the people who are there in the region, to pray for them to find the light and to have light and to be safe. And even if we can't stop them from being hurt or killed, maybe at least we can help them spiritually. So, I mean, this is also a lesson, I think, too, about all of the what I would call lies of the new age. Um, while we have ability to manifest things on a small scale here, um, while we have intention and focus and we can make things happen individually in our own individual lives, the collective, I guess, consciousness or whatever you want to call it, of humanity, these decisions and this karmic thread, we can't change that. That is something we've all agreed to on some level. And that is, we're not necessarily here to do that. We're here to kind of try to help those we can help and be of service to those we can be of service to. I mean, that's what being in the light and being, I think, a bearer of the light is going to be, because this is a dark period, and uh, we're not going to stop these people from doing these terrible things. It's already, the train's left the station. The time to do that was years ago. And even if we did, there would be some other thing, because this is a period of reckoning. So, it's not our fault that this is happening. And I think people who are here as to hold the light, um, it's very confusing, because you think, well, why am I here then? How am I supposed to help? If this is kind of like a train that's a freight train barreling down, the, barreling down the tracks, how do I stop that? How do I help those people? What can I do? Well, all you can do is really, try to help people off the train. Try to tend to the people that are, when the crash happens. Try to, you alone cannot stop 2,000 years of belief systems and structures built on structures, built on structures, all coming into culmination of this sort of colliding with reality, which is that we are supreme and we can do whatever we want to the earth, and we can hurt each other. It's just say God told us so, like God, God is on our side, and we can torture and hurt and harm and subject others to pain, and we can enslave people, and we can anything we want, because we've got God on our side. That's thousands of years of that. And one person can't stop or change all of that karmic destiny. So all we can do is show a new way, is be a new light, show a new paradigm that can be built out of this horrible situation. And I think people are naturally going to gravitate towards this, because we're going to need each other. We're going to need community. We're going to need one another. And we're going to have to come together and find our power as a collective group. And we're going to have to learn to heal one another and love one another and work together. And in this darkness, we will find our light. So that is, I think, what people should focus on is don't worry, don't be afraid. Just pray and find your guidance and let your guidance call you to the places where you're supposed to be so that you can be of service and a leader. Because I feel like what's going to happen is the new age that's coming. Okay, let's talk about the ages. The age of Pisces. We had Jesus coming. He is sort of the sacrificial, loving iteration of, the God of the age, right? The Pisces paradigm is all about sacrifice, love, loving one, being in oneness with the Creator and going and finding the kingdom of heaven within, which Jesus talked about and nobody listened to, but that's a whole other problem. That's part of our issue right now. But the new age of Aquarius, which is dawning now on the other side of all this ending, is an age of humanity and technology working together, where people are collective, where the one is not greater than the other, where there is not a hierarchical system, where basically it's community based and people are truly work together in knowing that they are stronger in community and oneness with each other than they are individually. And there is no one person held above another. So how are we going to get there from here? How can you get from this age of dictatorship and oppression and power over and sacrifice and, how many people have been sacrificed to the altar of this, and unfortunately, that's not the message of Jesus, but the other side of the Pisces age, the negative side of the Pisces age, is all about manipulation and lying and thievery and confusion and delusion. And we have seen people use Jesus as a cudgel to destroy other people, to torture people in the Middle Ages, to burn and women at the stake, to enslave people from Africa, to enslave women, to murder indigenous cultures and to destroy their not just their bodies, but their cultures, their belief systems, their connection to their heritage. And we have seen this destruction and ending. Pisces is the last sign. It is the sign that is straddling this world and the next. And there's been a lot of death and destruction during the Pisces age over religion, which is another Piscean thing. So, and there's been a lot of sacrifice and there's been a lot of hard lessons because it's an age of victimization as well. That's what Pisces rules. So, and Jesus was the ultimate victim. He was literally murdered, on a cross. So he is the symbol of that age, but we are no longer going to be living in that age. We have to see that the next age is an age of community and no more hierarchies. Hierarchies are bad because whenever one person has the power, we see what happens. Look at what's happening in this world. The reason we're in this situation is because people who are in positions of power almost always abuse that power. It's so seductive to fall into the abuse of power that most people, 99.9% of people, cannot resist it. There's no check on that power. And once you get it, you want more of it and you want more of it, and it's addictive. And we see the results of that over and over and over again, especially in the Piscean age. It's been in every age of humanity, really, but certainly as we built civilizations, where one person can consolidate the power of so many. We've seen it. We see it with money. We see it with all the constructs of the age. So a new construct has to come out. A new paradigm is being born as this one is dying. And that's what I want you guys to think about, is how do we lead people out of this paradigm into the next one? Because the next one has to be different. We have to be evolved. We have to be respectful of one another. We have to learn to truly love one another, and not in sort of, I'm not saying we all have to, but we have to work together and be, instead of competitive, we have to learn to cooperate. And technology would be part of this age going, look, if we were going to become a spacefaring race, could we go to space with this kind of the way we are? Would other extraterrestrial beings even let us go out into space with our kind of warring psychotic structures and our evil darkness? I mean, we couldn't. I don't even think. I don't even think we would be allowed into whatever whatever structures out there that because we're not ready for that. And until we learn to really to live in community with one another and work together, we can't really even get to that next level of civilization. So I know sounds really a lot, but but I've also had dreams of being on other planets as a human. So I know humanity will, on some level, on the other side of all this, will reconfigure itself. Um, I've had dreams about, as a kid and as a young adult, and even recently, about being on bases on Jupiter, like outside, not on Jupiter, but looking down at Jupiter. I've had dreams about being a colonist on Mars. I've had dreams about visiting Venus with a massive spacesuit on and be kind of going down into check out what's going on Venus. I've had dreams, so many of those dreams, that I know that humanity on the other side of this will recollect itself in a very different form. And I think humanity will, out of the ashes of this, will learn that there is only one way, and that is cooperation and community. So those of us who are here, I believe, are here to teach that lesson and to learn to work together in that. And that's the best I can do for trying to assuage anyone's fears, because this is going to be a scary time. And I'm not going to lie about that. It's a very, very sad, tragic time. And you may find yourself crying and upset and feeling this intense waves of sadness and tragedy. But just give those people love and try to help whoever you can help to feel loved and supported. That's what we have to do now. Oh, I have a hard time with my anger. It gets the best of me. I'm livid over all of it. I understand, Jen. Oh, yeah, believe me, I understand. And that's normal. But use that anger. Use the anger to be clarifying. You know, it's okay to be angry. And I think everyone should be angry, because this is wrong and this is evil. And for some people, I think they are warriors. They are real warriors. And they war on the side of, like Michael, right? The angel who destroys demons. And for some people, the path may feel like they have to contain the darkness or be part of the people that hold evil to account. And some people are healers, and some people are mystics. We all have a different role, like I said, as holding the light in different forms. So if you feel angry, use that anger, channel it into something meaningful and good. channel it into helping someone, channel it into trying to make a difference with the people around you and in ways that you can kind of clarify or use the sword of truth, you know, to wake people up, to get them off that train. There's a lot of good things that can be done with anger. Will there be a call to impeach Trump? His war is illegal. Of course it's illegal. I think more than being impeached, Trump needs to be put in jail. And, you know, that should have happened. If it would have happened under the Biden administration when it should have happened, we wouldn't be here in this way right now. But it didn't. And I don't know if you've heard, but Trump is talking about federalizing the elections. So look for I just want to say this too in response to this, that this is something that people haven't seemed to grasp, I don't think, that we don't live in a democracy anymore. We don't live in a democracy anymore. I'm going to say that again. We don't live in a democracy anymore. We never really lived in a totally true 100% democracy. We lived in a republic. Now we live in what's called an anocracy. And soon we will be living in a fascist state. And more every day, they are trying to cage us and control us. And every day there's some new thing popping up to that effect. So, and I'm going to say something else. The Democrats have been complicit. Not all of them. There are good ones, and there's people who are outside of that system, like Bernie, who's not a Democrat or a Republican, who have been trying to hold this to account. But they have been held at bay by the corporate Democrats. And many people think, 2026, the midterm elections, vote in the elections. I mean, yeah, do it. However, you can expect that even if the Democrats sweep the House and the Senate and get all the power back, they will have to deal with the resistance that comes. Even if Trump can't federalize the elections in time, he can't control them like Putin does in Russia. You can expect that the results will be held in question, that those people will be lawsuit after lawsuit, and they will be under intense and incredible pressure to not take their seats, maybe even harassed, maybe even arrested. I wouldn't be surprised. So we have to get out of the head space that the Democrats are going to do their job and the Republicans are going to wake up, because that isn't going to happen. And even if they were to impeach him and convict him, at this point, he's consolidated enough power that, was Pam Bondi going to really put him in jail? Is Pam Bondi going to really go along with that? I mean, any of those people that are that he has stacked around him, think about that. Are they going to go along with that? I mean, then you're just going to have a breakdown of the federal government. You're going to have, what we're seeing with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that the tariffs were going to, you couldn't do that. It's not legal. Well, what happened like an hour later? Trump just did a uniform 15% tariff on the entire world. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a level of lawlessness, not just with Trump, but with everybody who is surrounding him. That it doesn't really, if the Congress were to impeach him and convict him, how are you going to get him out of there? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, what about, think of January 6th, but now he's inside the government. It would just be, okay, I'm not even going to listen to, he doesn't listen to Congress now. I mean, it'd just be like, whatever. That, all that would happen, he'd probably start going after all the people that, you know, impeached him. He would probably just put those people in jail. I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. That's the reality of it. There isn't a political solution out of this situation. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is not a political solution at this point. There just isn't. It's going to take people rising up. And I think the French Revolution keeps popping in my head, but in that kind of fashion is what's going to happen, I think. And that's where we're going to get into this civil war, because people are going to wake up to that fact. And they're going to have many wake-up calls to this fact. And people are going to get very upset and angry about it, especially as he comes after people who he doesn't agree with. And people who are vulnerable. There's already stuff going on that front. Like, they've just made it a 6-month waiting period for people to get, all of these prosthetic things that are like medically necessary. But because Oz, I'm not even calling him a doctor, because is he even a doctor at this point? Says that there's all this Medicare fraud. This is a way to kill more people. Well, what people don't seem to understand is these people don't care about life or you or me or anyone. They're dark, they're evil, they care only about themselves, their own power, their own prestige, their own money. They're all ego, they're all shadow. Their light has been eclipsed by their own darkness, and what they're willing to do is unfathomable. Think about the Nazis. What were they willing to do? That's what we have. Hello, everyone listening to the end years have helped me to try to get a handle on my emotions. Yep. Trying hard to stay in the light and stay calm and focus and love. Yes. And good. I think it is good to listen to the end years. I had a near-death experience. I had two kinds of the first one wasn't a near-death experience. I was put in a medically induced coma when I had the surgery right here. You can see I have a scar there from a tumor. And turns out my mom, I was a kid. I was 17 when it was taken out, like almost 18. No, I was 16, maybe almost 17. So it had been growing for about 4 or 5 years. Even I had told her about it, but she didn't do anything about it. And finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to die in childhood. I'm cool with that. I don't mind. I'm fine. Just like, ugh, I have to come back as a kid all over again. That was kind of a bummer. But I was like, well, that's just the way it is. I'm fine with that. So, when I thought that, about a week later, my mom, she goes, well, that lump, because it was really quite big. It was like the size of like a jack ball on the side of my neck. She goes, I think we should take you to a different doctor. I've been saying that for like 5 years. So finally she takes me to this other doctor. And one doctor was like, well, I don't know, it's probably nothing. The other doctor was like, no. She was like a woman and probably kind of intuitive. I think we should get that scanned. So I got the scan. And nobody thought it was going to be any really big deal because I was young. Well, they didn't tell me, and they did the scan, and then I was scheduled to get it removed. They're just like, well, let's remove it no matter what it is. Did the scan to see how big it was going to be for the surgery. And it turned out that it was the size of a football. It had grown all the way up into the back of my head. The tendrils of it were, according to the doctor, a week away from hitting my medulla oblongata, which controls your breathing and all that stuff. So I wasn't told that. I was in surgery, and it was an 18-hour surgery. So it was really complicated and a huge deal. And they told my mom that I'd probably be paralyzed on one side of my face, but if they didn't do it, I would die. So that was the choices. So she, went ahead with the surgery, and I was in the hospital for like a week. It was in the 80s, which at that point they were starting to kind of kick you out early because of, Reagan. And my head was swollen like this big, giant, like massive. I mean, my friends came to see me. One of them sort of burst into tears because I looked so bad. Their head was wrapped in bandages like a giant balloon. And so anyway, they let me stay there for a little while. for about a week, and I wasn't really ready to come home, and I had been on, like, morphine, right, for the pain, and so they sent me home with, like, some Tylenol codeine pills or something. I got home, and my mom gave me the Tylenol codeine pills for when it was time, and, they didn't work. I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain that I started to have a seizure. I started having a seizure, and I couldn't stop seizing. So, she called an ambulance, I got taken to the hospital, and I was put in a medically induced coma to get me to stop seizing. And during that period of time, it was really weird because I had dreams when I was 9 years old of being in this same exact situation where I was in this. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move, there was darkness, I could only like, I could hear and feel everything around me, I could kinda see, but I nobody could hear me, and it was exactly that same experience. So I was in this medically induced coma, and I saw things moving around, like, not good things, like scary negative things in the environment. It was really terrifying. It was a horrible experience. Um, and it was really awful. And finally, I came out of the coma and I was okay. Then when I was in my early 20s, um, I had well, when I was like 18, I came to California. I started having these dreams about the ocean tipping over, and I got this feeling like if I ever went in the water, I was going to drown if I ever went in the ocean. So I stayed out of the ocean. My husband was like, "Oh, we gotta go in the ocean." I was like, "I can't go in the ocean. I'm gonna drown." And I kept telling him that, and being he was young and he didn't really believe me. Finally, he convinced me one time when I was with a couple friends to just, oh well, we don't have to go in there. We'll just stay on the shore and just we'll just have water lapping. We'll just play in that part of the water. Well, a wave came and took me and just like, I think I had my back turned, and all of a sudden, this wave hit me, and I was, like, pulled under into the ocean floor, and I started drowning, and, I separated from my body, and I saw this light coming through the water, and I started going up into the light, and I was thinking, "Okay, I'm cool to go. I don't care, this is fine," but, um, the only thing I regret is I didn't get to kind of finish forgive my mother for all of the I was really angry at her because she was so abusive, and I didn't get to actually kind of resolve that anger towards her, and feeling like I needed to forgive her because even though she had been a terrible mother, she had at least given me the opportunity to come into this world, and she had made a sacrifice of her body. And the light that came for me was feminine. It was very loving, but it felt like female in origin and very loving and compassionate. And so as I was going towards the light, all of a sudden, I guess my husband grabbed onto my bathing suit and pulled me out. And I was hovering above my body and seeing in 360 degrees. And I could see my body kind of like flapping around and running, kind of like like expelling all of this like stuff out of me. I was kind of watching actually everything around as well, not just me, because I could see in 360 degrees and everything was really intense and vibrant. And I started coughing up everything, and people ran down the beach because they could see that I had started drowning. And everybody, my bathing suit was all filled with just all the sand, and it was kind of embarrassing. I remember looking at myself going, "Oh, that's so embarrassing." And uh, you know, I kind of and I stayed above my body, like kind of hovering around in 360 degrees, and I watched myself. Um, so I watched myself. My friends helped me. They took me to the bathroom and cleaned me up, uh, and I was talking to them, and we had about half an hour more. We were talking and hanging out at the beach, and they were getting prepared to go because it was horrible. And when we got back into the car, all of a sudden I was like, bang! I was back in my body, and I realized they were talking to me. I couldn't hear a word they were saying. I couldn't hear anything. I was in so much pain. My sinuses were like filled with sand, and my ears were filled with sand. I couldn't hear anything, and I was in all this pain. And I was like, for weeks, I mean months, I got sand out of my ears and out of my nose, and of course, because I was young, I had no health insurance, I didn't go to the hospital, but, I turned out to be okay, but, the thing that struck me about the whole thing was I could hear them perfectly, I could see everything perfect, I had no pain, and then all of a sudden, when I hit the car and I went back into my body, I could no longer hear a word, it was like, that's all I could hear, and I was like, to me, that was a lesson that, you know, I'm not my body. I mean, I knew that I had lots of health things growing up, and I think that was sort of the, reason I had that. But anyway, um, so I feel like every near-death experience is tailored to our life and our experience and our belief system, and since listening to all these near-death experiences, it seems to be the thread. There was one I listened to recently, which was a guy who had been a drug dealer, an atheist, very, very cocky, very arrogant guy. He'd done a lot of bad things. He said, I don't know what those were. He said he would, and he had an experience, and grew up in the, Christian faith, although he rejected it. Um, and his near death experience was all about hell. And, you know, and Jesus saving him and stuff like that, which was, in the end he came back and then his whole life turned and he became a better person. And I feel like I knew another guy. The first near death experience I heard was from a friend of mine. After, I had my own thing. It wasn't a full blown near death experience. I was coming out of my body. I didn't end up going to the other side, although I felt the energy of the other side. He had actually died for 26 or more minutes. I think he had ended up he was in the morgue when he came back into his body, and like the the coroner or whoever it was, the person in the morgue was like freaked out and like got, almost had a heart attack because he sat up and um and he had been dead. He had no heartbeat, no brainwave activity, nothing. Anyway, so he had told me this really intense experience where he had also been, he said, a bad person in life. He had been a bad father. He had done a lot of bad things. And he said he was taken from his body by these angels and then he was taken to hell. And in hell, he was shown all these people were being purified of their sins. And he went through the purification. And after he was purified, he was taken to the Lord. He called it like God. And that's he said, in his experience, he heard all this music playing. It was a lot of pop music. He said, and his experience was pretty. But he also came from that same Christian background. You hear other people who have had experiences where a divine female being comes. Everybody's experience is different. Some people see Jesus, some people see a goddess figure, but what it tells us is the divine comes in many forms, and there are many, many paths, and it's all basically the same thing. I would urge anybody who's interested in the ND stuff to really read the Robert Monroe stuff. Robert Monroe, who developed this whole, binaural beats comes from him and his research and stuff, and he had tons and tons of uh, astral projection things. He just started spontaneously astral projecting when he was like, um, in his I think like 30s or 40s, and he spent decades, doing that every night. And he started this institute that studied that phenomenon. And in his travels, he said he saw different planes. And if you know anything about esoteric or hermetic kind of stuff, in Hermeticism or esoteric tradition, there's an astral plane. And the astral plane basically, and you see it in Tibetan Buddhism too, with I don't know what's going on there, but you see it in Tibetan Buddhism with their idea of the bardo, right? That there's all these different places on the other side, right? It's not one uniform thing. I think the Tibetans kind of have this idea that you have your own personal experience with, and depending on how clear and how trained you are to transition, your experience can be really scary, like some people's you hear, or really positive. But what Robert Monroe talked about was going to all of these different places in the astral plane where people were kind of stuck in these belief system structures. He said he went to one that was Neolithic, where there was like this, like he described it as all these like Neolithic people, and they were worshiping something, and there was like this um, uh, big waterfall there, and it was it was like a paradise, a Neolithic paradise. And then there was you know heavens that were like Christian type heavens, and there were all these different places based on people's belief systems. So I feel like the feeling I get about that is that our beliefs create an astral plane reality, and those of us who have shared beliefs create like a shared place on the other side. So but ultimately, you don't want to get stuck in those, is what he was saying, because basically you can get stuck in one of those um, astral plane places. And like in same in Tibetan Buddhism, you can get stuck in the bardo for a really long time. You still have to come back. And then what happens if you get stuck in one of these places is you don't really go through the process of, um, you know, getting yourself ready for the next lifetime. You can end up getting stuck there for a long time. And um, and he felt like he needed to rescue some people from those places, and they would always just go back. So it's sort of like holding areas, basically, on the other side. It's really a weird and interesting set of ideas. Um, you got to read some of that stuff, because if you're interested in that, his experience with that is really fascinating. Down to like spirit guides being other incarnations of you. Um, the idea that as you, ultimately you have all these lifetimes, and eventually all the lifetimes come together in one kind of giant version of you, and you bring all that back to source. It's really, really interesting stuff. So I highly recommend those books if you're interested in that stuff. You can get them on, you can listen to them too. You don't have to read them if you're so inclined. Hey, Grant, how are you? All right. Seems that Vance doesn't care about Israel that much. That mostly a Trump thing. Perhaps the Civil War starts with Vance. Um, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's probably coming from the people. But I think Vance is not into it, because it's not part of his particular. Um, so there's this I guess cabal, I guess you could say, is the best word for it, between the technocrats, the theocrats, the kleptocrats, plutocrats. And he's a technocrat. Okay. Trump is kind of just a kleptocrat. The people that support him are theocrats, like Lindsey Graham and all those Christian right-wing nationalist people. And then there's these plutocrats who just have a lot of money and power, and those are some of the Epstein people and all that stuff. So they have formed this cabal of power, and they've sort of thrust Trump into, because he was the easiest one to get there, basically, because he has a little cult of personality. So Vance was put in, I think, by Thiel, because Thiel wanted his technocratic perspective in there into this administration. So Vance is he's not a theocrat. He may pretend to be one, but he's really a part of the technocratic class. And what they want is a different reality than what the theocrats want. The theocrats want a Christian caliphate. They want the world and everybody to be under the rule and authority of their belief system, which is religious. And they don't want the Jesus version. They want the Old Testament version. The technocrats, they want a civilization, a world in which they are the supreme overlords, and they enslave everyone under them. And you can read some of it. It's very crazy stuff, very dark. And people are basically just fodder for the overlords, the corporate overlords who are the head of everything, and AI and technology serves the overlords, and the people serve that purpose to sort of be grist for that mill. So they have different end games. And for the theocrats, this whole Israel thing is part of the paradigm, which I was talking about early on, of this has to be the end of the world. We have to kind of do this whole biblical thing where we destroy ourselves, and so that Jesus can come back, and all that stuff. So that's really why they're on board with this. They think that we need the Armageddon situation to happen so that we can usher in this age of Jesus when he's going to come back, and people are going to be saved, and they're going to be, of course, the only ones who are saved. And in the meantime, they're going to, wield their power over everyone. But the technocrats, they don't believe in that. They don't believe in Jesus or any of that stuff. They believe that they want to take the small resources that are left. They know about climate change. They're science people. And they know that the resources are going to be scarce. They want to control the resources, and they want to create cities that are technological cities that basically where they are the overlords, these corporate cities where everything is sort of revolves around them and their technology, and everyone else is just worse than peasants. So by starting this war, you're ruining resources. They don't really want to have war like that, because that's just like the possibility of it becoming, thermonuclear war is real, and that will contaminate their whole future situation that they want to build for themselves. So they're not for this. So that's really where Vance is coming from. He's really a mouthpiece of Peter Thiel. Okay, I should probably go soon because I am really running over about what I thought. We'll be taking a lead in the internal U.S. resistance. You know what? I think it's going to be one of those things where it's going to come from the bottom up, just like the civil rights situation, only a little bit different. I think it's going to be people who are leading protests and people who are gathering people together in resistance. And out of those places, leaders will emerge and people will start to build community from that. So I don't think it's going to be anybody who we see in power now in any way. Hey, Jeff, Connie, 45-cent executive order to demolish the Treasury Union. Okay. Unless intervention happens, which would be a universal action. Russia warned the U.S. do not attack Iran. Is Russia going to defend Iran? Yes, they are. And like I said in the beginning, that missile strike I saw, it was Russia that I heard that was. I'm gonna get a skim. Okay, this makes me want to cry. I know. Join the club, Jeff. I feel the same way. I've seen these weather and earth changes for years now. Woke up before 4 a.m. America will not be the same again. I agree, San. Maybe the mega people will wake up when their loved ones get drafted, Marjorie. I hope so. Jessica, Milo, woke up at 4 a.m. also. What gives? Yeah, that's when I had the experience where I was taken out of my body and shown the thing. I think that's about when it happened. For human, I think all we can do now is hold our light and try to build and keep our local community supported and solid. That's right. That's what we have to do now. Okay, America is led by the sword. That is right. Free human, the corrupt elite who run America have lived by the sword. Most of the people who get no real say in the atrocities they commit don't live by the sword. It's time to divorce ourselves from them as peacefully as we can. I 100% agree with you, free human. Jeff, what makes me angry, however, is how much there are people who still choose to resort to the same constructs to solve our current problems. I agree. Casey, when we don't vote our vote without thinking about the people we are voting for, we become participants in the sin. I agree, Casey. Anybody who voted for this is complicit in this as well, and they're going to have to live with that. Sam, college history professor used to say change after some big funerals. Oh, wow. That's unfortunately true. I mean, Even if we look at the history of the 20th century, it really wasn't until World War II that the world was remade in a different way, and there are peace treaties, and a new order came out of that. Incognito, in July 2026, there's an interesting alignment. Some are calling the super cradle. Do you see any hope in that? It looks like a LOTR face off between God and evil, but maybe the benefics could prevail. Well, you know what I want to say about that is good always prevails in the end. The light always wins because the light is the light of source. So, you know, um, whether it prevails in the short term, probably not. In terms of, we're still going to deal with all this chaos, right? But ultimately, the true source of all things is the light, is the good, is compassion, is love. So even though we're bringing about this horrible self-induced evil and chaos, ultimately good will come out of it. Ultimately the good will win in the end because all will be right again. So I mean, it's not very comforting because we're gonna have to live through all this, but that is true. It really feels like the good people are losing the Civil War. I'm sorry but it's a wrap. Jeff, it hasn't even started yet, so don't lose heart. Kevin, here is what I'm doing. I registered for a gun permit. I am buying 2 Glocks, purchasing books on how my enslaved ancestors used herbs and rituals to overcome their oppressors, learned how to withdraw and perform blood transfusions, embracing my Jewish roots of mysticism, learning Tai Chi, learning how to read facial and body language to detect lies, retraining my mind to technical remote viewing, topic Ed Dames. I am creating an altar to Sophia Amat, Cecilia of the Haitian Revolution, Nanny of the Jamaican Maroons, and other warrior shamanic women, and beings to ask them to guide me and protect my family. I will not be put in a concentration camp. I will not become enslaved in the South. I will not go quietly into the night. Wow, Substack banned my post again. I quit. Nope, they didn't. I read it just now, so maybe you didn't see it, but it was there. Kevin, I see your post. Yes, Kevin, we can see you. Maybe it's time to move. I couldn't figure out a men bill, so I'm late, never good at math. Okay, sorry about that. So I'll have to look into the super cradle. I'll look into that, what you're talking about, and try to write a Substack piece about that. The Mars-Uranus square was yesterday as well. That's right. As Eris conjunct Chiron and Sirius and Sun conjunct the North Node. That's right. And we're going to have an eclipse in a few days, a lunar eclipse too. Denise, do you think people have to start learning to use guns? I don't know how. Or is Sebastian Gorka right and they are going to be taken away? I'm sure they'll be taken away, but that's up to you, Like I said, everybody's going to have their own path, and whatever your guidance tells you to do, you should follow. At this point, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm using what we are told to plan. Please don't stop sharing. I will not, Jennifer. Thank you. I agree. I have a plan. I'm keeping a cool head. Good. That's really, you got to keep a cool head and stay in the light. Stay in the light. Same of us. Okay, Denise, do you think the people, the left before this, will not meant to see this, and why? That left before this. Yeah, I do. The people that transitioned before this happened. Yeah. It's just so evil. I can't fathom it. Oh, I had to go. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna have to call it because something's happening here. Lots of love to you guys. I'll see you guys next Saturday, and please just follow your guidance, do your meditations, pray for people around the world who are traumatized and in pain, including yourselves and your families. Pray for protection and love and peace, and follow your guidance most of all. Blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful Saturday as best you can, and try not to cry too much. All right. Blessings to all of you. Take care.